What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Hopefully you all are having an absolutely fantastic kick butt day today so far. So guys, today's video we're going to be tackling a very tall task, and that is ranking every single star power on every individual brawler inside of Brawl Stars, picking which star power you want to use in the game in this current meta that we're in right now to have the best chance of countering it. So if you guys are all pumped up, let's get straight away into it. Here we go. Okay, everybody, now I'm sure you all know this by now, but the meta is always changing. I feel like a few balance changes ago, there was a completely different meta than the one that we're in currently. We all know who are the shining stars right now, your Darals, your Pocos, your Rosas, and basically all around tankier meta. So the question is, what star powers can you use to give yourself the best chance possible when you're running a different brawler against those brawlers? Or if you're running those brawlers, which one do you want to bring into the given game mode that's going to give you the best chance to win? So the way that we're going to be organizing this ranking video today is starting off with the lowest rarity in the game and going all the way down our list to the legendary brawlers. And please don't look at my Mortis. I'm going to untilt him tonight. Sad days for your boy Ray when it comes to Mortis grinding, but I will get it. But that's besides the point. We'll be picking the best star power for each of the brawlers, but the one that we don't end up picking, I'll give you guys examples of when you want to run that star power, because every single star power is balanced in the game and every single star power has its own place in the meta. You just kind of gotta find it. So I hope you guys are pumped up. Let's get into Shelly. Let's do it. So starting out with Shelly at the very top of our list, and don't worry guys, I'm gonna keep these explanations brief because dang it, we got 30 brawlers to get through in today's video, so I have to. So the best star power for Shelly is most definitely Shell Shock. Even though we are in a very tank heavy meta, which Band-Aid is a bit better for, Shelly is the bona fide tank counter. She doesn't necessarily need another benefit from the star power to take out those tanker units. Instead, she needs something that helps her out against the brawlers that she's a bit weaker against, which are the longer range chip damage, poke damage brawlers. So you can super them, close the gap, and take them out, as well as just some supportive mechanics for your team, stunning a couple of them so that your teammates can take them out a little bit easier. So Shell Shock, best one. Nita is next, and we have Hyper Bear as well as Bear with me. Now you might be a little bit surprised about my pick for this one, but I'm selecting Hyper Bear, even though for the longest time Bear with me was the best one to pick, and only exceptions Hyper Bear you want to run in Heist. I've been seeing a lot of people run Hyper Bear as of recently in competitive play against the tankier units. One of the best things about Bear with me is its sustainability, being able to throw it out there against your supportive characters so you can hit them, charge up your bear, and keep the ball rolling. But when you're up against these tank heavy team comps and Darals and stuff like that, they take out your bear super quickly. So sometimes it's a bit better to throw down Hyper Bear, get that pushback with the pressure from the bear, and then when they try to take it out and get really close to it, the bear's going to get a few swipes of damage, charging up your super again and damaging them pretty dang good. It's basically just a little bit more aggro. Next is Colt. We have Magnum Special as well as Slick Boots. Now this one is very difficult for me to pick. It is very controversial in my own eyes because Slick Boots is really good in the right hands and is by far my favorite star power on Colt, but the better one of the two in my eyes is Magnum Special, especially for a brawler who isn't that crazy good in 3v3 game modes. It's a lot better to have that added range. It's much more beneficial going up against those control base units like your Jeans that outrange you, or your Pipers or your Brocks, and it's still going to work the same when you're going up against tankier units, which Colt is relatively good at going against. The only time you're really going to want to use Slick Boots, if you aren't comfortable with it in 3v3s, is in solo game mode. So you can rip around the map and show down a bit faster, and in like takedown and stuff like that, you can get to the objectives a bit quicker, but it's basically preference with these two. Bull is next, and this one is very easy for me to pick, and hopefully you guys as well, and that is Tough Guy. This one is your go-to in basically every single game mode. The shield is so good for Bull and any tankier unit. If you have a shield on a tanky unit, that is perfect. But in a rare circumstance for Berserker, you're going to want to use it in game modes where there's an objective that you need to kill something quickly. So like Heist, where control isn't that crazy big of a thing, where you're just rushing a thing, trying to get as much damage as possible. But most definitely Tough Guy. Jesse, we got Shocky as well as Energize, and this one is very easy for me as well, and that is Energize. By far the better of the 2-star powers, especially with this tank heavy team comp. The turret is a big counter to the tankier unit, so keeping that thing alive is one of your top priorities. The only time you're going to be using Shocky is in things like Heist, but still, you could get away with Energize. Time for Brock, and this one I also had a hard time picking, but I have to go with Rocket number 4 being the better of the 2-star powers, and it all boils down to the meta. Once again, we are in a tank heavy team comp. DPS is way more important. You want to be able to blitz down the opponents that you're going up against, as well as it allows you to spam out shots a bit more, like in 2 different locations where your opponent can be, adding a bit more damage overall. In Incendiary, you can use it in Siege as well as Heist, being the only 2 exceptions. And I do also want to add, if there's any maps with a lot of close quarters, Incendiary is definitely a very good option as well, so you have a little bit more crowd control with the person that you're going up against in your lane. Other than that, I would go with Rocket number 4. Dynamike. Oh man, this one is also very easy. You want to go with Demolition for sure, unless you are a freaking master with Dyna Jump. Basically, I feel like if you're running Dyna Jump, you are very afraid of Mortises or other hard counters, or you're just insanely good with Dynamike and you can double jump or triple jump. Other than that, you just want the extra damage. You can throw down the super on top of you if a Mortis is on you to deal even more damage. And again, we're in a tank heavy team comp, but Mike is kind of an exception. He's not very good in the meta right now, so it's tricky. Bow time, the better of the 2 is Snare Bear. This one is simple. Stun is crazy good inside of Brawl Stars. The only 2 brawlers that have it is Bo and Frank. And when you get someone locked in, they are not leaving. Every single person on your team swoops in and kills them super fast. And one of the things about Bo in 3v3 game modes, a lot of time people are going to forget about where your mines are. So you get a lot of value out of Snare Bear. This is not very good. The only game mode and map that I would highly recommend you use this on is Snake Prairie. Other than that, use Snare Bear. Next is Tick. We have Well Oiled as well as Automa Tick Reload. This one is so freaking hard to say, but I have to go with this one as well. The reload speed is way more important to Tick than healing up. But the majority of the time when you're playing with Tick, you're not behind enemy lines, you're behind walls and staying safe and peppering out shots as fast as possible. So reload speed, added DPS, added control is all way more important. Most of the time when someone's on top of you and you're worried about healing, when someone's on top of you, you're going to die with Tick. He's not that healthy and he has a really hard time killing people when they're close. So go with Automa Tick Reload. Alright, so as for 8-bit, we have Boosted Booster and Extra Life. Now this one is really hard for me as well because both have different spots, but I have to go with Boosted Booster in order to add a little bit more support for your teammates. But this one is kind of an exception because you have 2 very clear spots where you want to use these star powers, where they're both insanely good in those circumstances. Extra Life, you definitely want to use in Showdown. 2 lives in Showdown, where game mode, if you die, you lose. You get 2 chances. Yeah, you use Extra Life. But in Boosted Booster, I'd say your best option would be to use this in like 3v3 game modes. Solo game modes, 3v3s. Alright, so as for 8-bit, we have Boosted Booster and Extra Life. Now this one is really hard for me as well because both have different spots, but I have to go with Boosted Booster in order to add a little bit more support for your teammates. But this one is kind of an exception because you have 2 very clear spots where you want to use these star powers, where they're both insanely good in those circumstances. Extra Life, you definitely want to use in Showdown. 2 lives in Showdown, where game mode, if you die, you lose. You get 2 chances. Yeah, you use Extra Life. But in Boosted Booster, I'd say your best option would be to use this in like 3v3 game modes. Solo game modes, 3v3s. Round the corner to M's, Bad Karma, and Hype. And this one is also plain as day in my eyes. Bad Karma by far better than Hype in my opinion. Right now, like I said before, the tanks are running havoc in the meta, and Bad Karma helps out with that. M's being a very good counter to the tankier units. Added DPS is going to help you even more. Sustainability is important with certain circumstances, but I find sustainability is better when it's for your entire team. And the majority of the time when you activate your super, you're only going to have like 1, maybe 2 people in your super before you die because everyone's shooting at you with that super activated. So most definitely use Bad Karma in every game mode, solos and 3v3s. Okay guys, so we made it to El Primo. I'm not gonna lie, I'm genuinely nervous about this one because I feel like they're both pretty dang good in their own rights, but the better of the two in my opinion is Meteor Rush. The only reasoning I have for this one is because the best game mode for El Primo is Brawl Ball. I feel like he has a hard time in a lot of the other 3v3 game modes, and Meteor Rush is like the quintessential star power you need to use for El Primo. The increased movement speed on a guy that has a lot of health so you can grab the ball and kick it in is very valuable. Now in other game modes, El Fuego is very valuable in objective based ones, so like Heist as well as Siege, other game modes where you just need a little bit added damage. Barley, we have medical use and extra nauseous. Now a lot of you guys might be thinking I'm contradicting myself, because if you haven't looked at these star powers closely, they're very similar to Tick's star powers. So we have medical use, which is healing, which is very similar to Tick's other star power, healing, and this one is added damage, and Tick's is reload speed, but inherently if you have more reload speed you have more damage per second because you can toss out more shots than you would before. But I have to go with medical use on Barley. I feel like that quick 400 HP every single time you throw out your basic attack, it has insane utility. You get to decide when you want that extra 400 health of healing. A Mortis is coming in on you, prepared to 3-tap you, throw down a couple basic attacks. He can no longer 3-shot you, and he overextended. You could probably kill him in that circumstance. So I have to go with medical use. It's just too good. But extra nauseous definitely has its own spots in the meta. I like to run this star power in Siege and Heist for that added damage on the objectives that I'm going for. My goodness, Poco. Have you guys ever thought that there would be a day where Screeching Solo would be the inferior star power for Poco? Da Capo by far the best star power for Poco, especially with the tank heavy meta. He's so good with Rosa and a Dara on your team. Throw out a couple basic attacks, get them back up there so they can keep in the fight. That's exactly what you need. Now, of course, you have to run Screeching Solo in solo game modes. It's in the name for a little bit added damage, and if you would maybe go in like a bounty. If you're in bounty, maybe I could see that working, but even in bounty, Da Capo maybe is even better than that. Rosa, plant knife and thorny gloves. Plant knife I gotta go with, and it's kind of the same lines as Barley. You got healing on one hand, you got damage on the other. Healing the majority of the time is going to be a bit better besides Tick, just because I feel like you can even be a little bit more aggro with Barley as a lobber as opposed to Tick. You gotta be behind the wall, because if someone gets on you, you're screwed. So man, might as well just have some reload speed. But getting back to Rosa, plant life I feel like is a really good star power. There's bushes on basically every single map, so you can find some utility being able to heal up a bit faster. In Siege and Heist I would tend to use thorny gloves, but better than two, plant life. It's time for Rico, and oh baby, am I pumped up to say this, Robo Retreat is the better of the two star powers. Robo Retreat is probably one of my favorite star powers in all of Brawl Stars. It is so freaking funny, and it's so much fun to use. Even brawlers that hard counter Rico, say like a Mortis trying to go in for a 3-tap, once you get 2 shots on him, he can just get out of there with his crazy super speed, and it allows you to control it. So if you want that speed, if you need that speed to get to an objective, or you're going up against opponents who can't kill you like the tanks, you can keep that speed going and just go ham on the opponents. It helps you line up your shots better. It helps you get better bounce shots. There's a lot of different things that comes into play with Robo Retreat that I would highly recommend using it for. Time for Dara, we have Steel Hoops and Rolling Reload. Even though I like the concept of Rolling Reload better, Steel Hoops is by far better. Like I said before on Bull, shields when it comes to tankier units is a double whammy. You want shields on a tankier unit. The only time you're going to use Rolling Reload is on Heist. It might be even hard on Siege because the IKE will just deal damage to you. So Rolling Reload on Heist. Round the corner to Penny, Last Blast, and Balls of Fire. This one is very obvious. Balls of Fire, so freaking good. The 400 damage per second isn't crazy damage dealing or anything like that, but the radius of the fire that it leaves is like a Brock's Incinerary on steroids. It helps so much with crowd control that literally sometimes it just pinches you and you don't know what to do. You're just stuck. So good. The only time you want to use Last Blast is on some Siege comps. Next is Carl. We have Power Throw and Protective. Pirouette. This one, insanely easy to make the decision on. Protective Pirouette is probably one of the better star powers in all of Brawl Stars right now, especially when it's on a brawler like Carl. Protective Pirouette, that shield when you're going in with your super so that you can go and take out particular brawlers, like in game modes such as Gem Grab. Rolling in on 2 people, you don't necessarily have to even worry about that. You can go in on a Brock and a Penny, or a Penny and a Jessie, and just go in there and not worry about dying. The added DPS that comes with Power Throw isn't even a thing when it comes to having those important moments in some 3v3 game modes. Okay, so we made it to our epic brawlers, starting off with Piper. First, we have Ambush and Snappy Sniping. Though I want to say Snappy Sniping very badly because I enjoy it way more, Ambush is a bit better in the meta currently. On the maps that Piper is relevant in the 3v3 game modes, there's going to be a very wide open map as well as some bushes in the spawn. Those are the maps that you can play Piper on basically in the 3v3s, and that's where Ambush comes into play. So you can dish off that extra 800 damage on some of those higher health brawlers. Snappy Sniping, so much freaking fun. Definitely my favorite of the two, but just not as good in the meta. The only time I would recommend playing Snappy Sniping is in like Siege and Heist. Next, moving on to our thick queen, we got Pam. Mama's Hug and Mama Squeeze. So in my personal opinion, I feel like Mama Squeeze is a bit better. And my reasoning for that is she's only really relevant in Gem Grab right now, which is very minimal at that. I feel like I never see Pam in competitive. I'm assuming the next set of balance changes, she's probably going to get a buff. But in Gem Grab, Mama Squeeze is very, very good. The majority of the time, you're going to throw a station down behind something. And if they want to take that out, they have to go within that radius to take it out. As well as you can use it for crowd control, making it so if people come down a lane, they have to take damage while you're going through it. Altogether, I feel like Mama Squeeze by far a bit better. Round the corner to Frank, Power Grab and Sponge. Though Sponge is freaking crazy, Power Grab way better. The added damage is way more important. You're already tanky enough with 8,540 HP. What's another 1,000? Definitely go with the damage. Next is Baby. We got Batting Stance and Home Run. This is very clear cut in my eyes. The better of the two is most definitely Batting Stance. You will always see if there's ever a BB that you're going up against in competitive, they're using Batting Stance. The added shield, the damage reduction, those type of star powers are so important. The only real time you should be using Home Run is on Siege, so you can get to the bolt faster, and on solo game modes like Showdown, ripping around the map, getting to the boxes, taking out weaker units, covering ground basically. But Batting Stance, really good. Moving on to my dude, Mortis. We're sitting at 927 trophies, which feels bad, man. We tilted a little bit last night because we were trying to fit Mortis on a map that just didn't work with him, but that is way besides the point. I'm sorry I had to get that off my chest. This one is very obvious. Coiled Snake, definitely the better of the two. You almost always want to run Coiled Snake. The only time you can really get away with Creepy Harvest is in some Gem Grab maps where it really calls for it. Like, your teammates are a big determining factor on this pick. If you have some really high damage dealing units on your team, like a Piper or something like that, that can chip them down and you can dash in and get the kill, pick it up, then you can kind of make Creepy Harvest work. But other than that, you just need to go with Coiled Snake. Tara, very obvious, even though the first one got a buff in the last set of balance changes. Healing Shade, way better. Healing Shade is super, super critical for your team. Healing that affects your entire team is freaking OP. Next is Jean, and this one is very interesting. I want to say Magic Puffs, but I still think Spirit Slap is a bit better, even though Magic Puffs did get a buff a few balance changes ago. I believe it only healed up 200 before that, but in the meta that we're currently in, healing is very important, and it helps out a lot. I was playing Mortis with Jean a while back, and it felt good. Magic Puffs, just dashing back to Jean, healing up and going back in, but that added damage, I feel like, is way better for Jean. Moving on to Spike, and this one is easy, and that is Fertilize. The only real time that you ever want to use Curveball are on bigger, wider open Showdown maps where chip damage is really important and you're trying to hit some of those longer range units. Other than that, I feel like Fertilize is your way to go. Oh baby, Crow is next. This one was a little bit tricky to select, the second hardest of today's video in my opinion, but I have to go with Extra Toxic. Now listen to me, I know you guys probably want to go with Carrying Crow. That added damage is really enticing and it's really good for a brawler like Crow. Once you get him past half health, get a little bit of added damage, but I feel like damage reduction is very underappreciated in Brawl Stars, or underestimated. If you take a look at all the brawlers that have damage reduction in the game, which are shields or any other means of damage reduction, it's always used. We see it on BB, Carl, Bull, Daryl. They always use the shield, and this is another form of damage reduction, and you can have it on multiple brawlers at the same time. If you're on a 3v3, you can poison every single enemy brawler, and that's a grand total of 20% damage reduction on all of them, which is incredibly useful. You just don't see it. Next is Leon, and oh my gosh, Invisiheal is definitely the better of the 2-star powers. 1000 health per second. Are you kidding me? You definitely want to use this star power on basically every single game mode inside of Brawl Stars, with one tiny exception. I say you can get away with smoke trails in solo showdown, where you want to kill lower health brawlers. They're your high priority targets, so you can just cycle through your supers. But can we appreciate Invisiheal here for a second? 1000 health per second. Your super lasts 6 seconds. That's a total of 6,000 healing, and no one can disrupt it. Even if you are invisible and someone's hitting you, you just out heal that damage, baby. If a Mortis is on top of you, even if like really only the shotgunners can take you out, but if someone's on top of you, you just keep that health, that super procced, wait till they use all their ammo, and then you take them out with basically full health. It's crazy. It's a really good star power. Moving on to our final brawler of our list today, and that is Sandy. The better of the two, in my opinion, is healing wins. I feel like it's a little bit more valuable being able to heal up your teammates than dealing damage to the enemy teammates. This comes in handy if there's a lot of bushes on the map, so you can keep vision on the enemy teammates. But if you really think about it, healing or Sandstorm lasts for 9 seconds, which is 2,250 HP for your entire team if they're within that radius the entire time. So that's quite a lot. That's close to a Poco super. Okay guys, so that is going to be the end of the video today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Did you agree with my picks? If you did, if you didn't, make sure to leave in the comments down below. All your opinions are really worthy here on the channel. I love reading your comments, especially on videos such as this. But yeah guys, hopefully you all enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to slap a like on it. With that being said, make sure to keep having fun with Brawl Stars, and we will see you in the next video. Peace out.